How you doing? This is Artie Gendro, and I want to welcome you to the Golf Show with Artie. We're actually starting our second season this year. We got off to a late start with the spring that we had. It's been awful, but now sun's shining and we're ready to play some golf. This year we're actually going to telecast the show from Franklin Park Golf Course in Boston, Massachusetts. It's my new home, and we're going to show you the course a little bit today and talk about it. Later in today's show, we're going to meet with Russ Heller. Russ Heller is the superintendent here at Franklin Park Golf Course, and Russ is going to give us a little insight on the history and what's happened this year with the greens being in the shape that they're in and area courses all around New England. If you've been paying attention to the news, you've also heard that a lot of golf courses such as Salem Country Club, where the Senior U.S. Open is going to be played this year, Nashotah Country Club, where the seniors will be playing in June, week prior to the Open. They've all had problems with their greens. Some of them have even lost many greens. So Russ is going to come on the show and tell us what happened this winter and what we're doing to get ready for the season. You know, there's been a shot in golf that's been hard for all of us to play, and that's that lob wedge shot, the shot where we're on this side of the bunker and the pin's just on the other side, or you have that shot where it's just a half wedge and you're not sure how to gauge what a half wedge is or a quarter wedge. Today we're going to talk about the pitching wedge, and we're also going to talk about the lob wedge. It's a new club that's been invented and it's been introduced to golf in the past 4 or 5 years. And I'm going to give you some tips and I'm going to give you some ideas on how to play the shot. And if you do not have a lob wedge, after today's show I think you may want to invest in one. So stick around. We have an action-packed show for you today. We'll be right back with Russ. Okay, now here we are with Russ Heller. Russ is the superintendent here at Franklin Park Golf Course, and he's been a busy man this spring. Thanks for coming on, Russ.
Pleasure to be here, Artie.
Yeah, it's great. I know you're busy. Tell us a little bit about Franklin Park. How did we make it through the winter?
We did all right. One of the benefits of Franklin Park is it's wide open, not a whole lot of trees, so things came through okay.
Yeah.
A few problems, but
minor?
Not bad. Minor.
Yeah, I know the players have come through the pro shop and have said place is in great shape compared to other courses. Let's talk about other courses for a minute. Putterham is another course that the management company that we work for manages the maintenance over at Putterham. They're underwater. They're closed. We heard the Salem Country Club is closed. The U.S. Open's coming.
Are.
What happened this winter? What happened with the greens?
Well, the most basic explanation is winter kill, and that falls in a few different categories, whether it's ice damage from ice covering up the greens. Some places had as many as 8-10 inches of ice, and I know that Salem was out chipping away all winter trying to open up their greens. Some of it was water moving and then freezing and thawing, causing the turf to die. There's no one thing that happened. There's a combination of a lot of different things, and it was just a tough winter for a lot of people.
So depending on where you were located and what the weather was in your particular area.
Absolutely. We got off somewhat light here. The further south you go from Boston, they seem to do better. The Cape was fine, but just in this Boston area and the North Shore and even New Hampshire just got hammered.
Yeah, because like we said, Putterham's not far from here. It's a few miles.
No.
And they won't open till July, I guess.
That's what they're saying.
Is what we're hearing.
And I know that they're busy over there right now, trying to get a lot of seed down and get the place back up to shape as quick as they can.
Which fed into my next question. What do you do? The green's dead, different type of grass than what we see in our backyard. What do you do? Start over from scratch? Do we resod?
Yes, one option is resodding. That may not necessarily be the best option. If you have the luxury of being able to set up a temporary and close the green for a few weeks, seed is definitely the best way to go. You definitely get a better catch, and it's actually less work later.
In the long term?
In the long term, which is what we want to shoot for. So this is something that's going to be going on. You're going to see the effects of this for 2 to 3 years. This is not something that we're going to just get over with in a few weeks. Yeah, we'll have some grass back up, and it'll be playable. It's playable now, but it'll be a little bit more playable, but it's not going to be that quality stand of turf that we've seen the last couple 3 years. because we've had some better conditions.
So the Cape's the place to go, Boston South, and
Well, this is the place to go.
this is the place to go, Franklin Park. Getting back to Franklin Park, we made it through the winter fine. Looked like all the greens are in good shape. A couple of them had minor problems, which is ordinary anyways. I noticed last week the greens are starting to grow. They're starting to putt a little better, starting to fill in, and you had to go and put some holes in the greens.
Yes, I did.
That's aeration holes.
That's aeration. Basically, the purpose of that is to open up the green, get some air moving in there, get some oxygen. The plant does need oxygen, and that'll help it on those lines. And it removes compaction, gets rid of some of the thatch. We follow that up with some top dressing, which ultimately helps smooth the greens out as the season goes along.
Now I have a question for you from the public. What is top dressing? What's in the mix? Why is it they see sand? It looks like it's just a sand.
Basically, what we use here is just a 2 millimeter sand.
Sand.
Straight sand. Some places will incorporate a little bit of loam or a little bit of organic matter, whether it's peat or something on those lines. Right here, sand seems to be the best thing. We don't need a lot of that other organic material.
Right. So if someone wants to put a new lawn in that thick, dark loam, if you do that, it turns to mud, right? Is the sand, the idea of the sand is to keep it porous a little bit?
The sand does keep it porous, helps the water move through. It's a good idea to have some of the loam to help, hold on to your nutrients and water, because obviously the sand will just let everything go.
Okay, so by you doing this now, the golfing public is going to see the rewards 6 weeks from now. They'll just see a better turf.
Oh yeah, you'll see better conditions later. It's a small price to pay for a good season of turf.
There you go. So now we know what aeration holes are all about, and I know Russ has been a very busy man here at Franklin Park to get the golf course going, and I appreciate you coming on for a few minutes and explain some of what's going on out there.
Okay,
and I know you got to get back out there.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you later, Russ. That was Russ Heller, the superintendent here at Franklin Park Golf Course. Took a moment out of his busy day to give us a little insight on what they do and why they do it to make the course better for us. We're going to take a break right now, and we're going to head over to the lesson tee. We're going to talk about that lob wedge. So we'll see you in a minute. We're on the 18th hole here at Franklin Park Golf Course, and if you look behind us, you get a pretty clubhouse. But what we're doing is we're standing about, I'm going to say 50 to 60 yards off the green. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the lob wedge, the 60-degree wedge, the shot where if we use a pitching wedge, in this particular case we have a bunker in the way, it becomes a difficult shot, because the pitching wedge, for most people who make a full swing, is designed to go anywhere from 100 to 130 yards, depending on your ability. But we're in a situation, like I said, we're about half that distance, 3/4 of the distance to the pin. So now I have to make an abrupt swing. I have to make an abbreviated swing. And to make a half a swing or 3/4 of a swing, that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to repeat on a consistent basis. And I'm sure some of you have gotten lucky out there and hit some good shots with the pitching wedge in this situation. I'm going to give it a try right now and see what type of success we have. It's about 60 yards away. I'll line up towards that pin. Probably take about a half a swing. Not too bad. A little long. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take the lob wedge. Now the lob wedge, when you make a full swing, will go anywhere from 30 to 50 yards. You don't have to abbreviate. You don't have to feel half a swing. You can just let it go. You can hit your full shot. Just like you did on the first tee with the driver, just like you do with your full shots in the fairway. You just line up to your target. You get a sight. You find an intermediate target in front of the ball that's on the same line you want to go. Build your stance up to that. And what I'm going to do right here is just line up and we'll give it a shot here. First take, see if we can get it there on the first swing. A little closer than the other one. and it was easier to execute the shot. I just took a regular full swing from 50 to 60 yards, which is my range, and just let it go. We'll try one more time. As you can see, I set up nice and square to the target. The wind's blowing a little bit to the right, so that's why I'm starting this ball out to the left a little bit. And just go ahead and just make a full swing. We'll practice, you can execute that shot too. Now we're going to go over to a bunker, and I'm going to show you as we get a little closer how this club can be more valuable. Come on, let's head over. We're on the 7th hole here at Franklin Park, and I thought it was probably one of the toughest shots on the golf course to demonstrate the next part of the show, which is I promised to talk to you about the lob wedge and what it is and how we use the shot. I brought here with me, Tom can zoom in, I have a pitching wedge, a sand wedge, and a lob wedge. Now the difference between these clubs is nothing more than loft, and I'll explain the lofts to you. The pitching wedge has 48 degrees of face loft, the sand wedge has 56, and then the lob wedge has 60. Now before the lob wedge was invented, well, that's a tough word, lob wedge, say that fast, we had to utilize the pitching or the sand wedge to hit the shots where we're on this side of the bunker and the pinch is on the other side, or we're not so far from the hole, maybe 20, 30, 40 yards, where we were forced to hit a half or a 3/4 pitching wedge. Now we can go to this lob wedge here, and we can hit 60, 50, 40 yard shots where we can almost make a full swing. This club here is great around the putting surface, especially where, in this situation here, we're on one side of the bunker, the pin's just on the other side, and it actually slopes away from you. So we don't have much room to work with here, and where the pin's located on the green, we don't have much room to roll the ball. So the appropriate shot here with the lob wedge would be to hit it over the bunker, get it on the green as quick as we can, and then have it stop before it goes flying past the pin off the green. And I think what I'm going to do for the first demonstration here is I'm going to take the pitching wedge and try to create this shot using a pitching wedge the way it was done before the lob wedge came out. Let's set up the pitching wedge. I'm going to set it up square so the face of the club is heading to the target, and I'm going to see if I can hit this shot, have it land, try to stop near the pin. Actually, I'm going to try to keep this on the green with this lofted club, and let's see how this works out. There she goes. How many times have we done that? I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to try to create the lob wedge using the pitching wedge. And let's see how successful I am. Oh, opened up that one a little bit too much. What I mean by opening is I took the club face, turned the club aim into right field a little bit. What that does, it just gives it more loft. That one actually caught pretty good, and you can see how that stopped. I just picked up the lob wedge. I'm going to try this with the lob wedge now. I don't need to open up the club as much. I don't need to open up my stance. I basically can set up facing the club where I want the ball to go, swing towards my target. No crazy angles, just straight forward. Set the hands back a little bit. And let's see what type of height we get here. Now, one thing with the lob wedge, you have to get used to the fact that when you hit it, here you go, you can see the difference in the shot there. Boy, that broke hard to the right. But you can see that it's stopping maybe on towards the middle of the green. Now, with the lob wedge, because there's so much loft on it, you always get a feeling of cutting under the ball. You never feel like you hit the ball hard enough or far enough. But one thing you got to understand with the lob wedge, it's not designed to go very far. It's a finesse club. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's for a shot down near the green, in a trouble situation where you have to get the ball up in the air, and you don't need to go very far. And what I'm doing here is trying to get a feel. I'm actually trying to land it just off over the bunker. It takes a little bit more feel to understand how hard to hit this club. And like I said, because it's got so much loft on it, don't just throw it away and not use it. Learn how to hit it. And I just put this in my bag recently, and I've been out here myself playing around with this club and learning what it takes and what type of feel you need to get the shots you want. Now I'm about a foot short or a foot and a half short where I want to go. And you can see the tremendous height that you get. And let's see how that one worked out. That one felt a little better. And then again, that was just a little bit of a bad bounce, but you can see the height difference here. Boy, that was bad. We picked a real tough spot here. One more time. And you notice that I'm not doing a lot of extra lower body work. There we go. See, that one stops. This is just a hard green. So if you want to get a lob wedge in your bag, it's great to use around the greens. I would say if you were going to make a full swing with it, probably going to get anywhere between 30 and, if you're a big hitter, probably 50, 60 yards. But you definitely want to get a lob wedge, put it in the bag, learn how to hit it, and learn the finesse shots around the green. We'll be right back. Well, that about wraps it up for today's show. I want to thank you all for coming on the Golf Show with Artie. I want to give special thanks to Russ Heller, the superintendent here at Franklin Park, for coming on board with us and giving us some insight on the golf courses this winter and how they made it through, and what we can expect to see in the future on the golf courses. I hope you enjoyed the tip with the lob wedge. I think you'll find it useful if you get out there and try it. We'll see you next time on the Golf Show with Artie. We'll have special guests George Lyons and Billy Ryan. They're from the Parks Department here in Boston, and we're going to do a show dedicated entirely to junior golf. So you want to stick around and be on board for that one. I think I'm going to go try to putt that one out there that I knocked up with the lob wedge. So I'll see you the next time on the Golf Show with Artie.